We are joined now live by a former air traffic controller, Sean Tenner, more than 30 years experience. Sean is currently the lead air traffic control instructor at Sacramento City College, training future air traffic controllers right here out of our region. Sean, I want to start by talking about a question that I think a lot of people are wondering right now, and that has to do with this FAA internal report that came out yesterday that sort of specifically noted that the staffing in this particular tower was what they're calling not normal. I think maybe it was that one person is normally in charge of the helicopter traffic, one person is in charge of the airplane traffic, but it looks like perhaps the same person was doing both jobs. So I just want to ask you sort of your broad take on what that terminology means. Put that in context for us, that not normal staffing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. First, I want to say my heart goes out to the loved ones and friends, families of everyone who is suffering because of this tragic event. And I hope that you get some resolution soon. The FAA has started the investigation, which takes quite a while to go through. They have many small details that they're going to look at, and what we have now is just preliminary. So with reference to your question, staffing is an issue for controllers. It has been for quite a while. There's a little history behind that. In 1981, all the air traffic controllers went on strike. And President Reagan at the time gave an ultimatum to be back because it's a safety-related position, and you swear an oath when you take the job that you won't go on strike. And the president ended up having to fire most of the workforce. So the workforce was completely rehired in the early 80s and or late 80s and early 90s. Controllers have to retire at age 56. So if you do the math, the entire controller workforce is at retirement age now, or has been retiring. So there is a staffing issue overall for the FAA. The FAA is working diligently and hiring a lot of new controllers, but it takes up to 4 or 5 years before a new controller can actually sit and work traffic by themselves, depending on where they train. If it's a busy facility, it can take a long time before they're released and called a certified professional controller, where they can just sit down and work traffic. Now, in regards to the staffing at the tower on the night of the event, the accident occurred at roughly 9 o'clock, which is well past the busy rush period of the inbound and outbound traffic for the day. The controller workforce works shifts. It's shift work. And at that time of day, a lot of the controllers that were there during the day shift are getting ready to go home, and combining positions is not uncommon. It's normal. You will have one controller doing the work of one or two controllers because the traffic load is typically not as busy at those times of the day. And the supervisor, who's in charge of the operation, makes that decision. They decide whether or not it's slow enough to put one controller in a position where they're doing the normal job of 2 or even 3, or, and late at night, it's one controller doing the job of everyone because traffic is such that you can do that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That was some really good context for that, Sean. Thank you. I want to ask you, we've now heard some audio recordings of the traffic controller speaking to the Black Hawk helicopter in the moments before the collision. And I want to ask you specifically what the protocol is. From a layman, right? I'm hearing the audio and I'm wondering, is there something more aggressive that they could have been doing or more proactive? So can you talk about what the role is of the traffic controller when they're communicating with an aircraft that they see might be on a collision course?
Yes, absolutely. The role of the controller is to provide a safe and efficient operation, and to have aircraft fly through the system safely. And we have different protocols to do that, different ways we separate aircraft. One way is vertical separation. You can have 1,000 feet between aircraft. Another way is to have a certain amount of mileage between aircraft. A very common way, and probably the most used way in the terminal environment, which is the environment that's around the tower, around the airport, is called visual separation. Visual separation can be applied by the controller, meaning that the controller can look out of the tower cab and see both aircraft, and then using their own eyes, make sure those aircraft stay apart. It can also be pilot applied visual separation, and that's what this controller did, according to what I've heard on the audio files. The controller told Pat 25 that there was traffic inbound for runway 33, an American regional jet, asked him if he had it in sight. Pat 25 responded affirmative, we have the traffic in sight, and requested visual separation. The controller said visual separation is approved. At that point in time, in the controller's mind, they're done. The helicopter sees the other airplane and certainly is not going to fly into it. The controller, it appeared that they continued to monitor the situation, because as the planes got closer and it didn't look good, the controller went back to Pat 25 and said, verify you see the aircraft, you see the regional jet. The pilot again responded in the affirmative, and the controller instructed Pat 25, the helicopter, to pass behind the regional jet. And for some reason that didn't happen.
So I want to just quickly sneak in two more follow-ups right here. So is it possible, in your professional opinion, with your experience, that when the helicopter is affirming that they're seeing the jet, that they're potentially seeing a different airplane, that they're not talking about the same jet, the controller and the helicopter?
Anything is possible. That's hopefully what the investigation will show. With the cockpit recordings that have been recovered, we'll have audio on there that no one has heard yet. We've just heard the audio from between the pilot and the pilots and the controller. It is definitely possible that it could have been looking at the wrong aircraft. This did occur over the river. That's a fairly dark area. There's no lights for the most part over the river, but either side of the river, you're in a very busy, very complex, very populated area, and you're very close to the ground. So there could have been some ground lights, and that is a possibility. But again, that's complete speculation.
Right, of course, and we'll be awaiting that FAA investigation, but as you said, it can take a very long time, maybe a year, before we really sort of have a full picture. But Sean Tenner, we very much appreciate your perspective on this and your expertise. Again, Sean is joining us. He is the lead air traffic control instructor at Sacramento City College, more than 30 years of experience as an air traffic controller as well. So Sean, we appreciate your expertise this afternoon. Thank you. Coming up.